Lucia. Greetings, Alafia. Love, love. I'm so happy you're here. Because even in this day, there are so many people and systems and legacies actively orchestrating to erode and diminish the power of women of color, of trans, queer, gender nonconforming folks, of low income folks, of the Black, Brown, Indigenous front, of people who believe in the earth and our connection to it, of people who value human life and justice and sustainable long-term living, harmony. And ironically, often, as you all know, it is women of color, and particularly folks who with lineages of Black, Brown, Indigenous ancestries, people who come from low-income communities who insist that we must work towards another world. As a woman of color myself and a mother of four, I am an Afro-Dominicana who was raised in the South Bronx. I first met Lucia maybe 15 years ago at the powerful Mothers on the Move led by our beloved sister comrade here, Wanda Salaman, on the call. And I was a baby organizer, y'all. My first job out of college, was working in the theater department at the Point. It was a summer gig. And I was like, what is this thing called art? And what is this thing called joy in the Hunts Point section of the South Bronx that I often growing up there didn't feel? And that was by design. And I am so grateful to the spaces and the people who said, we deserve so much more. We exist and give so much. And our people, our families, our babies, our future is in our hands. And there were so many things going on to convince us otherwise. But those beacons, those safe communities of practice, those mentorships with fierce mamas was my lifeline to discovering what is my purpose on the planet and how will I live into it. And it's an everyday struggle and affair, y'all. I feel like we all know and don't need to dance around the question of why us. We know it's us. It's been us. It's gonna always be us, right? We deserve investment and support, spaces to learn, to heal, repair, and recover, and to be emboldened to get back into the work and fight every day. There's a lot against women of color-led organizations. We are the bulk of the nonprofit workforce. Beyond nonprofit, some of the most impactful leaders, visionaries around the future of movements and what it means to live into an abolitionist world. And yet, philanthropy continues to underinvest in our leadership as humans, as leaders of organizations, in the budgets that we're trying to raise to support our communities. And this is not just stipulation. There's a ton of studies and reports that show that even after these racial uprisings, the money is not going to women of color-led organizations and to our priorities. So why? Well, I joined Warriors for Embodied Liberation, like maybe 5 years ago, Ruth? I don't know. I'm cohort 4 or 5. And because I was at the time, had done community organizing, cultural organizing, have been doing my work as a Afro-Caribbean priestess of our indigenous traditions, all looking for ways to resource myself and my people. And it was still, irrespective of my formal education, I have studied at the City University of New York and Harvard University. I've gone to public schools. I've gone to private schools. I'm a legit border child. All of these spaces had not yet designed curriculum containers of safety, affirmation, and true development for me to really live into my power. And I was looking for a space that would help me ground in the power of organizers, even as I was working in philanthropy. So I entered the Well community, and what I found has been and continues to be invaluable, because Well leads with anchoring all of us in a transformative analysis about who we are, what we face, how it impacts us materially in our bodies, our lived experience, in our psyche, in our spirit, and also how do we move beyond that to make meaning of that, to heal that, and still step into really powerfully express leadership. And what is at stake for us when we do that, right? We know the time on the clock of the world. Rising authoritarianism, oppression, and fascism is trying to get us to stay quiet, stay down. The increased militarization of our communities is only going to make it even harder. The criminalization of organizers through RICO charges, all these things are only going to make it harder for women of color to lead as organizers in their communities. And the imperative for us is to continue to resource those spaces and places. And that's what Well has been for me, a space of transformative analysis, a space of support and community, and most importantly, a long-term enduring commitment, a generational commitment to stay in regular practice, to stay in the work, to work on healing myself while I work on bringing repair and healing to my communities in whatever sector I work in. Mukti is the anchor organization for Well and a number of other training programs that Rusia has created and polished the leadership of so many powerful current executive directors of places like United We Dream, of my own organization. Half of the leaders at my group have been through Rusia's training and leadership. A lot of the folks that I fund at CJSF have been through her tailored, really impactful organizing training, somatics and body leadership training, all the things. And the question is why? Why this? Why her? Why her warriors on the ground, all of us? Because the time is now. We're a movement, we're deeply accountable to each other. This work has happened without philanthropic funding, and the opportunity of us coming together to do this work with intentionality and to be a networked community of really powerful women of color, this is our chance.
I frame it as supporting Ma Mukti or making investments in Ma Mukti is being in right relationship to myself, being in right relationship to each other, and being in right relationships to the movement work that we are so purposefully connected to, right? So that's how I frame my commitment. I am an immigrant from the southeastern part of India. I'm a Dalit woman, and I have been making home. Jackson, Mississippi is home to me, my chosen home, and I've been in Jackson for the past 22 years. And what I have learned in terms of why I chose Jackson home is also how Jackson chose me. Both those stories come together for me. And making a place home means it's a place that you are, you want to honor, a place you want to defend, a place you want to respect, and a place where you feel safe. And these are all the ways in which I think about Jackson. And in order to continue my growth to be impactful in Jackson, I was hungry for learning. I was hungry for growth. I was hungry for more community that will continue to shape how I am in right relationship to my place and my people. And to me, one of those cultural homes, one of those homes where my leadership can be stretched, was Well Plus. Well Plus is this program that Manuela talked about, which is within Ma Mukti. And I have been in Well Plus for almost a year now. And what I can say is that this particular program has helped me to grow into my embodiment of leadership with a fierceness that I was so beautifully surprised by. And with it is rooted in self-care, it is rooted in self-responsibility, it is rooted in self-awareness, and it is preparing and supporting and nurturing us to be responsible leaders, to be responsible leaders who understand their own selves, who are moving with awareness. A lot of times in many places, what I have noticed and witnessed is leaders that are not aware of themselves and leaders that are not aware of who they are serving. And we cause more harm by being such leaders or by being in such spaces. And to me, Mukti has opened that door to be transformative. And as a result, I made a personal commitment to practice my support of Mukti. And to me, that commitment comes in the form of my own personal budget. I am committed to supporting Mukti, and because I want to show up in the right way for Mukti, that's a conversation I had with Tori also. Like, if this is a commitment for us, for me personally, how does that transfer into an institutional commitment? And so Deep South Solidarity Fund is also committed to Mukti. And the one of the main reasons I say that we are committed to Mukti is because of how inequities in giving have shaped the funding present and funding futures of the Deep South. And I see that happening to women of color-led organizations all over, not just in America, but across the world too. So this commitment comes from a place of personal experience, personal trauma, and wanting to heal. To be part of Mukti is a commitment to healing, and I am honoring that commitment in my personal space and in our funding space too. And
at Mukti, we analyze a societal context and found women make up 75% of all fields in our movements, including philanthropy. Women of color are the backbone of our movements, but receive a mere 0.5% of the $66.9 billion foundations receive annually. Mantles of leadership are disproportionate to the folks both staffing organizations and engaged members. According to a candid study, organizations with women of color at the helm have an average budget of $50,000. Race to Lead series reports over 50% of women of color experience ongoing racial discrimination and are often overlooked for promotions. Since the pandemic, the NCRC has reported that the U.S. is in its first female recession, disproportionately impacting women of color, claiming 2.3 million women have left the workforce. Women of color are vital contributors to both their families and their communities, but enduring inequalities powered by racism, sexism, and other forms of discrimination and biases. BIPOC women have both the intersectionality of gender and race to navigate, making the ability to earn fair wages, save for emergencies and retirement, all the more challenging. Women need a space to be together, to heal, and to relationship build. M2 is centering our leadership. Our mission is to cultivate new and profound ways of being with one another, fostering a culture that values, respects, and empowers all women, particularly women of color, by creating spaces that promote individual and collective healing, transformation, and joy. Our vision is for a future where all women's leadership, particularly women of color and humanity, are centered, recognized, cherished, and valued. We strive to create a society where our voices are heard, our talents are recognized, and our full potential is realized. In this future, meaningful connections and interactions will flourish, celebrating and uplifting each other's successes. Our guiding principles: love. We believe that critical to all things, self-love allows us to see ourselves with the confidence and gentleness required to create a world that is just. A just world requires us to love each other fiercely. Trust. When the world tells us lies about ourselves, we must learn to know ourselves and trust in each other, to see and look beyond the tropes and stereotypes that keep us in a falsely unchanging world. Connection. We understand that connection is essential to human existence. Connection to self facilitates self-awareness, the foundation for transformation. Connection to others is a foundation of community, required for the creation of a just world. Commitment. As a key grounding, commitment to ourselves that a just world is possible. Commitment to each other is a catalyst to actualize a just world. Alignment. We believe contentment and joy are possible when we are living embodiments of our values. We achieve this through acute alignment of what we do and say with what we truly care about in the world. Innovation. Our lived experiences impart many lessons, and we intentionally create spaces for us to find and celebrate new ways of creating a just world. Innovation allows us to be flexible and creative in addressing our own needs and the needs of our communities. Transformation. Changing ourselves is changing the world. Ella Program. The work of M2 and Ella Summit and Program is empowered by extensive research we conducted over 12 months. Primarily, we administered 2 national surveys of over 500 women and engaged a group of women of color to explore the somatic shaping, historical worldview, of women of color over the last 30 years in the United States. The program goals are navigating racism and patriarchy, specifically within our organizations and movements, requires an effective leader to be centered and grounded. Developing embodied leadership safeguards women from enduring trauma, tools and skills to invoke intrinsic resiliency, centers humanity and therefore self-care, posits at the core the values that make us who we are. Cultivating intimate and community, local and regional, support systems for safety nets for our leadership, as well as affinity groups that can guide and support our growth. Technical skills for leadership roles within our organizations and movements. The L Summit goals connect and synergize the diverse strands and manifestations of women-centered leadership, healing, and racial justice work. Convene an inclusive makeup of 100 U.S.-based organizers and social change agents who are representative of women and the many intersections of our identities. Center healing and transformation as foci points of workshops and trainings that serve individuals' relationships to self and others. Establish regional networks to support women during and post the summit that can simultaneously create local pockets of support and learning comrades. Year-long leadership cohort to build, learn, skill up, and heal together. Retreats and trainings include leaders of embodied organizing, WEL, practicing justice, Actilist retreat, and many more offerings coupled with local, regional, and national topic-based convening. Women's Leadership Advancement Campaign, RISE. Respect, inclusion, support, and equity. Identified problem. Lack of leadership, equity, and representation of women, women of color, helming the mantles of leadership in our movements when we make up the majority of the front lines and are adversely affected and impacted by the issues we organize. Leadership and critical mass needed. Women and women of color working on the front lines of our movements and in 2-tier leadership, manager, organizer, who are committed to social justice via organizing strategy for social change. Integrate what kind of leadership is developed in living the embodied leadership tenets. 300 to 500 women, majority women of color. Identified solution. Develop embodied leadership amongst a critical mass that positions women, specifically women of color, to take mantles of leadership in their organizations and in our movements. Developed issue. Our organization and movements are equitable and representative of those more egregiously affected and impacted by the issues we organize, the people who are on the front lines, and those who hold mantles of leadership and decision-making power. Campaign goal number 1. Recruit and engage 300 women across movements in the United States to acutely align their values to be embodied leaders over a 2-year period. Campaign goal number 2. 50 to 75 organizations conduct an audit of representative leadership and commit to equitable leadership within their organizations. Campaign goal number 3. 50% of engaged members take on higher mantles of leadership within their organizations in the first 3 years of the campaign. Campaign goal number 4. Local, regional, and national pods engage 75% of memberships to offer support, spaces for strategizing, relationship building, and individual collective healing.
Yes, well, gratitude for you for believing in this work. Shout out to you for being creative and finding innovative ways to make the case at your foundations. Count on us to be thought partners. Call on us to talk with you and strategize, to nudge and send echo chambers that support your decision makers. A lot of the times, y'all, the resources don't move not because we don't believe in the work, but because the way we think about how change happens and how power building happens is not actually accounting for the humans at the center. And somehow philanthropy and grant making strategies have still not yet caught up to why the imperative of healing is fundamental to our people, to the longevity and sustainability of our movements, and to just transforming the world that we live in. So I encourage you to reach out to us. We are partners with you in this work. Happy to talk again, happy to co-strategize, share ways that we've made the case with different foundations, connect you to other funders who are prioritizing healing justice as their approach, and do all the things that we have to do to return the money to the people who on whose backs it was generated, who are actually stepping in and demanding that we reinvest in them, right? Thank you for being here. You are beautiful. Keep supporting the other badass women of color. I hope you sponsor the summit. It's gonna be litty lit with the most badassery set of women you can imagine. I wish you could go. And then imagine what's going to come after that formation connects. Like we're talking about the brilliance in our country across and beyond New York City. So just flagging for you as well. Talking about New Mexico, California, like, Jackson, like all the places. So stay, y'all, stay in relationship because this is literally what will save us through the times that are here and the times to come.